can roll up and we can get stony, or I can be lonely. I know I'm not perfect, but we could be homies. Get a big bag and tell me your stories. I won't ignore you, please don't ignore me. Hey, I'm just trying to get in your head a bit. I'm just trying to roll up my medicine, trying to get out of this that I'm in. Demons fight me, I can't let them win. I'm just trying to get in your head a bit. I'm just trying to roll up my medicine, trying to get out of this that I'm in. Demons fight me, I can't let them win.
What's up, guys? We've been away for a little bit due to the quarantine, but we're back. This is episode 26 with Drama. He's a local Omaha rapper, first rapper ever on the show, so thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
It's an honor to be here.
So, I don't know much about you, so you just want to tell everybody who you are and I guess how old you are. I got to see your face for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, sure. So actually, it's pretty awesome. It's episode 26 because I just turned 26.
Boom.
I was born in Omaha, Nebraska. Grew up most of my life on a farm outside of Utica, Nebraska. So that's kind of weird that I'm a rapper and was like a farmer, but you know, it works. I've lived most of my life in like rural Nebraska, but recently I've been in the cities. I've done a lot of shows in Omaha and Lincoln. I've done shows in Colorado. I'm just working on booking a lot of upcoming shows. My album Mastodon is dropping this fall. I'm not sure exactly when this fall is stated to drop in September, but I think I'm probably going to drop it before then because all of this like quarantine madness just kind of got me cabin fever.
Right. You see a lot of artists actually doing that right now. I know, I'm trying to think what band it was. A band dropped an album early because of the quarantine, and I've got to imagine that's kind of killing scheduling for people who are wanting to go and record an album. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely is. It's been really interesting. I used to be in the studio side of things. I was marketing director for Sanctuary Studios in Lincoln that recently changed hands, and that was like, it was really crazy. And I bet right now it's just almost impossible to get into a studio.
Yeah, it's a tough time, and it's hard to think about like the producers that's their livelihood. They're missing out on money, obviously. They have no content where, I mean, they don't have those bands regularly coming in. They can't really build connections. So I can only imagine once this quarantine's lifted, they're going to be booked for like the whole next year. I cannot wait for this quarantine to go away. Hopefully it's soon. And I think at this time, we realize how much we take like shows and concerts for granted. I think, at least in the hardcore genre or the hardcore scene, people usually show out for like the big bands, and they don't really show out for the little bands. But I think right after this quarantine's done, if we have like an all local show, it's going to be packed to the brim because people miss seeing each other, people miss interacting, and I just, like I said, I cannot wait for this to be over with.
Preaching to the choir.
How's it been? I'm sorry?
I say preaching to the choir on that one.
So how's it been as far as from an artist perspective? How has this quarantine affected you?
Well, I'm actually really blessed because I have a studio in my home, which is where I'm at right now. There's the True Fortune Studio. It's our label studio here in my house. Me and my label CEO built it recently, and we send everything off to an engineer, and he just does everything from his home. So we're lucky that it's not really halted a lot on the music side of things. As far as the business side of things, though, I do graphic design and design T-shirts and stuff on the side and do Spotify playlist placements. And that side of things has really slowed down just with people being like, I don't really know if I should appropriate funds for that right now, just in case, you know. So that side's been kind of hurting. I mean, there's been a lot of people that if they don't have, or if they're not blessed to have a home setup, it seems like a lot of people are kind of just like packing it in until it's all over. And I hate to be in that situation, but my heart goes out to those people.
Yeah, I think that's one aspect that rappers, compared to what I'm more used to, like the hardcore scene, where rappers, they can record everything, or I guess most things on the computer. They can rap like directly into the computer, whereas you can't really record drums. I mean, technically, record drums that way. But I think that's got to be you're fortunate in that sense that you can still do your job at this time.
Definitely.
So before this quarantine happened, did you have any shows lined up?
Oh yeah, we were actually we had a show planned up. We were gonna do the Nebraskans for Peace Festival on April 25th, which was gonna be cool because we got to do like a whole hour set, and it was a completely family friendly set. So I'd have to do like a few clean mixes of some of my songs, but I actually have quite a few clean songs too. So it would just be a different type of set list than I'm used to doing. So I was looking forward to that. So that's probably postponed for now because that was supposed to be like April 25th. And then we were supposed to hit the road and go down to Louisiana for a food truck festival and hit Chicago and I think it was Los Angeles also. But
Damn.
those things are probably on hold right now.
Yeah, and that's another thing you touched on that I wanted to hit. Rappers, like, what are some big cities that rappers hit? I'm going to keep drawing comparisons to, like, a hardcore scene. So, like, Kansas City's a big one. St. Louis is a big one. Chicago is a big one. That might be the same for rappers, but you mentioned L.A. as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would say definitely, like, your saturated markets are pretty much the same across genres. I mean, with more of your indie stuff, obviously you kind of got to go look a little harder to find those markets. But I've done shows in St. Louis. I've done shows in Denver. I want to do shows in Chicago. I know friends that do shows in like Houston and stuff. And those are just really big cities like Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Kansas City. They're all big, very big cities for hip hop.
Now, as far as building connections in all of those cities, how do you go about that? Or do you have a manager who reaches out to a promoter, let's say in Houston or let's say in Kansas City, or is that all done by you?
Yeah, actually, so me and my label CEO, we're kind of like partners in managing not only our own careers, but also like all the artists on the label. So it's something I do a lot of on my own and with the help of my partner in business, David. And so that's a lot of what we do is just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
So we were talking about
promoters.
Promoters, right. Okay, so to find fans in other cities, a lot of what I do is I do a lot of playlisting, which helps boost and saturate markets because the playlists that we have access to and can place people on and everything have all been run through diagnostic markets and everything. So they're really targeted for saturated cities for hip hop and alternative music as well. We actually have a really good for playlists as well. So we've been doing a lot of it through that and reaching out through just ad placements and targeting specific areas. I join a lot of groups on Facebook that are just like, this is LA rappers or Denver hip hop. And I usually join those and post up my music and try and get to know promoters down there and just grow our network at every opportunity we possibly have.
Now, I heard you mention promoting like via Facebook. How much money do you usually, I don't want to get into like specific details, but like what's a good amount of money to put into Facebook ads to reach a different market that you haven't like reached out to before? Does it make sense?
Well, it really just depends on your target market. I've seen people do extremely successful campaigns, video campaigns, just a short TikTok video with a song behind it to promote a song, but also promote like a TikTok challenge. And I've seen those go to 300,000 views in 20 different countries with less than $100 of promotion.
Wow.
And I mean, like, there's a lot of different methods. A lot of it comes down to kind of hacking the system, where you're hitting areas that are really wide target areas for your specific genre. But a lot of them aren't necessarily where you think they'd be. There's actually a lot of countries that aren't as privileged as the United States and aren't as wealthy that actually have a really good following for American hip hop and things like that. And so it's kind of,
you probably have followers in like Serbia.
oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of reach in like weird Russian countries and Denmark. It's pretty interesting to me, the science behind where things are interesting to people.
Kind of strange to think about that somebody halfway around the world is listening to your music.
It's great when you see TikToks pop up with your music, and then
Oh, that's happened before?
somebody in a completely different country.
How many times has that happened for you?
Recently, just a few. I've just recently started noticing people doing videos with my music on TikTok, but it's something we're looking more into because we actually offer influencer campaigns. It's something we'll be doing a lot more of in the future.
Gotcha. So when somebody posts, let's say your song on TikTok, do you get notified of that, or how do you release those rights, I guess, to TikTok?
Right. So everything we go through like a distributor. Like some people use like CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid, whatever it may be. And our distributor has like I think it's like 26 or 30 different streaming sites that it places your music on automatically or submits it to, and it's up to the streaming service whether or not to find your quality good enough to place it. Um, and so I can check all that mainly online and see anytime what gets put up. And then I also am part of a program with our distribution center where every time a new streaming service comes out, so like before TikTok came out, when TikTok came out and nobody was really knowing anything about it, my music was getting placed there. I just didn't know it was really a thing until it became popular. But as the new networks are added, it adds your music automatically to them as well.
Is it still on MySpace?
I don't know. I don't even. Is MySpace still a thing?
That's a good question. You know what? The last time I checked on MySpace, it was strictly for music. But I think MySpace long gone. I think Club Penguin's probably got more followers than MySpace does.
Well, now that they rebooted it, I heard it's really popular.
I sure did. I never played it, but I know what it is. But I think they said they rebooted it and had 6 million followers already.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's like they re-released Animal Crossing on the Switch, and now everybody's going crazy.
Yeah. You know what? I had a Switch, and I had 2 games for it. I won a Switch at my job. I got 2 games for it. You ready for the 2 games?
Yeah.
Mario Tennis, Mario Kart.
That's really all you need right there.
Right. Mario Tennis is fucking dope. Not gonna lie. Now, here's the major question. Let's tone it back to when you're about 13, 12, 13, 14. You had your MySpace. You typed in your password. You went to your profile. What were some of the songs that played on your MySpace profile?
Oh man, like a Millie, Lil Wayne, like it was cringy songs. Like I think there was some Waka Flocka on there. There's probably some Blink-182. There might have been some My Chemical Romance at one time. I had a really cringy Tumblr phase. See, I grew up. I was actually like in bands growing up. I was in like a punk band called Socially Awkward. I was with some other friends in a band called Toe Dirt, which was just really dumb, but it was fun. And we mostly did like covers and stuff, but it was fun.
I think as long as you get your foot in the door when you're young, I think it opens your eyes up to like the potential that you have. Because right now I'm 26 as well, and I wish I would have picked up instruments way earlier. I didn't even get a drum set until last year. So I'm still learning the drums, and I think about it all the time. I'm like sitting in the shower, and I envision myself playing in front of a crowd. I don't have too many years left to do that. Like to build a band starting at 26 is going to be a hard project. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You could always get into, I know in hip hop, a lot of people look for like just live drummers in general to keep with the beat and stuff. And that's always fun to do.
Well, I can keep with the beat. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I like practicing to like funk music. Funk is so fun to play.
Dude, funk is amazing.
Now, do you ever throw in like funk inspired beats into your songs, or let's say even like church gospel beats?
You know, it's really funny you say that because a lot of people expected, like when I started telling people I was doing like hip hop. I grew up in churches and stuff, so a lot of people were wondering, "Oh, you're gonna put any like choral church music in there?" And I'm like, I grew away from that whole scene and side of things. But I try and mix up my beat selection as much as I can. Like I really like I'm classified as a rapper, but I really strive to be more like an artist. I have some music that is more pop music. I have some music that's more R&B, some music that's more trap, some music that's just alternative acoustic music. So I try and constantly push the envelope of what I'm doing. I even have a song that's like a EDM banger kind of that I did with a screamer from a band No More.
It's crazy you bring that up because I listened to two of your songs earlier. One of them was clean singing, and the
Mhm.
other one was rap. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I had to double check Spotify. I'm like, am I listening to the same person right now? And it just shows how versatile of an artist you are. So that's great that you actually touch on that.
Definitely. I definitely strive for that. I think a lot of artists, especially in hip hop, a lot of artists get boxed in, get, you fall to the fans' expectations of what they want you to do. I just always been like a firm believer in make music for fans, but first and foremost, make music for yourself. Because if you don't love what you're doing, then eventually it's going to destroy you.
That's great that you just answered the question I was going to ask because this is kind of a subjective question, but what should a rapper be? Should a rapper be a role model, an inspiration? Should they be like fill in the blank? What should a rapper be?
I definitely think like rappers, especially now because it's hip hop is a prominent genre. You know, everything has a twist of hip hop in it. I've even heard metal bands come out with songs that definitely have rap verses in them. It's not necessarily considered a rap verse, but the way it's delivered is very hip hop. And so like I think it's cool the way it's touched on all the genres. But I think as hip hop artists, we have this platform and we have this spotlight, and kids really look up to rappers in a different way. It's something I've noticed over my career is just like the way kids come up to you and the way that people lust after the life you live. It's really an opportunity you have when you're in that spotlight to be somebody to guide people in the right direction. And like that's something I really, really try and push, especially the younger artists when you're coming up. It's really easy to make a lot of music about doing drugs and being angry and wanting to kill people. But at some point you have to grow past that and grow up and use that platform and that audience that you've built to change the world a little bit, even if it's just your corner of the world.
Right. Good points there. Now, I wanted to ask you a question. This one might cut a little deep. Okay, so the question is, at what point is being relatable being a sellout? So, for example, you'll see artists like Post Malone or even Little Peep. They touch on depression and keep going on depression and more depression, and it almost gets too much hype. And they're
Yeah,
known for being like a sad boy artist. Does that make sense?
completely. That makes sense. I have the same experience when it comes to all that. I think that it's very important to touch on mental health and things. I think, to set an example, Omaha, Nebraska artist King ISO just put out an incredible album where he touched on a lot of things that deal with mental health. But there's a way to do it where you're touching on things and you're trying to wake people up, make people aware, and teach people how to deal with some things. And then there's a way to do it where I feel like we've glorified being depressed to the point where it's popular. And that's where we have an issue is because these kids, they follow each other around like zombies. And, if there's another kid that's in a position of power, like a rap artist that's around their same age, and all he talks about is being a sad boy and popping Zans, and life's never going to work out, then he's preaching that negativity to his fans. And I feel like there's a point where you can touch on mental health, and there's a point where you just are milking it for profits and views.
Yes. You can put that down. I said in my opinion, sometimes it's more of a money grab than actually like something you feel inside. It's
Mm-hmm.
I think mental health, it's great to talk about, but at the same time, it's a market.
It is. And I also think to an extent, like, yes, there are some mental issues that need medication on a consistent basis, need therapy and everything. But I also think that this making it cool to be depressed and anxious has really pushed the market of all these kids who really don't have depression or anxiety. They just have nerves and bad social skills because of social media to think that they have to pop Xans all day because that's what their doctor tells them to do, when really they might just need to get out and do something and be social and interact and live life a little differently.
Right? Isn't it crazy to think about? Let's just say an artist by the name of Lil Xan, right?
All
You
right.
know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you so negative? But you get a tour, you get a tour of the world. Most likely, you get to do it while making tons of money. But then
Right.
you're preaching something that's more or less not what you're experiencing. Like, I don't think many rappers out there have actually killed someone, but they preach about killing people in their songs. Like, I'm gonna pull up on them and shoot them. I don't think it just sometimes rap doesn't seem genuine. So it's nice. It's nice when you get a genuine rap song and
Mm-hmm.
the lyrics you can actually you can attach yourself to.
Facts. I think you can always tell too. Something I've always said is I feel like you can really always tell an artist can't fake the pain they've been through. Like, and even good artists, they can't act that. You know, the real pain that you put into music, you can feel. And
Right.
I know a lot of this music lacks it. It's also one dimensional because it has the lyrics for it, but they haven't really felt that pain.
I think I think a good example is somebody who's grown up over time and you've seen like the music change over time. If you go back to like early Childish Gambino and look at what he's done now, I think he's found a sound. Not that he doesn't like rap, but I think he's been able to, I guess, touch into maybe some like African type of beats or some Latin type of beats, and he's kind of just put it all together, made himself an artist that's in a completely different genre or a completely different like ballpark than anybody else.
Yeah,
Like name somebody who sounds like Childish Gambino right now.
I can't think of anybody.
Exactly. He's kind of thrown himself out there, and I think being that he had such a big audience already, I think they're following him no matter where he goes.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
So good on Childish Gambino. I knew about that guy back in 2011 when he came out with Bonfire.
Yep. And then it was like sweatpants and
Yeah.
like there were so many good little EPs there.
Mm-hmm. And that guy's got too much talent. He's kind of like Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele
Yep.
can act, he can write, he can do everything. So they're both juggernauts in that sense. I'd like to see Childish Gambino do some more acting. If he can get into a movie, I'm watching it all day.
Definitely.
All day. Same with Jordan Peele. Any movie he puts out, watching it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Get Out was amazing. Us was amazing. He's got the Candyman coming out.
Yeah.
That's gonna be amazing.
Hey, how do you feel about people writing songs about, let's say, movies or fictional characters, and they kind of write their own story about them? Do you like when artists do that kind of stuff?
I think it's so interesting. Like me, I I feel like I've been doing music for forever. I've only been in hip hop for like 4 years, but I really love to see these artists just really kind of doing different stuff and branching out.
Yeah, there's a couple bands that I know that will, let's say the band, God, what makes their name? Ice Nine Kills
Yeah.
they're a hardcore band. They'll take like Jason or Freddie or stuff like that, and they'll write a whole story about him in the song. But they're not just like Freddy Krueger is a blah blah blah. He lives in your nightmares. They'll write a whole in-depth story about this guy, and I love when artists do that. I love when you get an interpretation from somebody who wasn't actually in like the movie.
Yeah, the creativity level it takes for something like that is just ridiculous, and I
Right.
always have to admire that.
Now, just from talking to you, it seems like you're somebody who appreciates lyricism over everything else. Maybe you get that sense.
To an extent, see, I like a balance. I think that I think that a lot of artists try too hard to be lyrical, especially in hip hop. We got a lot of rappers that are spiritual, lyrical miracles, you know.
Oh,
and
miracle.
they just use the same rhymes over and over that people try and use to sound sophisticated. But then there's also like there's artists that don't say a lot of words but say a lot. Like J. Cole is one of those artists that I'm like a massive fan of because I feel like he doesn't necessarily have to say anything crazy to make a point and to tell a story and to teach you something. And I think that's like what everybody should strive for is that balance. Because like I said, too many people are trying too hard to be lyrical and then they're missing on delivery, they're missing on melodies. I really like to see a balance with artists.
So who are some of your favorite artists?
I'd say my big like favorite artist right now. I've always been like a really big Post Malone fan. I'm a huge MGK fan. He's another one of those like jack of all trade artists to me because he acts and you know he was in roadies and he's done movies and he has crazy music videos and he kind of has the same kind of I feel like the same style that I do where I was kind of raised a certain way musically to be more of not necessarily just a rapper. I was raised to be more of like a musician. But rap's kind of like my way in, I feel like, in a way.
Okay.
I got really good at it. A lot of kids at the skate park and, you know, just different people that I'd run into at different events would say, hey, you know, you should really pursue this. And when I started pursuing it, then I felt like everybody was like, no, don't do this at all. You should just go back to singing. And I've just kind of pushed through it and overcome that adversity. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, but eventually I probably will transition out of hip hop.
And go to more singing?
Yeah, I go to more singing stuff.
Interesting transition. So that's funny that you bring that up because it seems like a lot of musicians I've talked to lately, they started somewhere, ended up somewhere different. So for example, I had this band called Cali, Indiana. They're a country band, husband and wife led band, but the husband started out doing like rock cover songs, and then he got into metal, and then he met his wife at a church in the church choir. His wife sang in the church choir, and he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna snag her, and we'll start a band. So we went from kind of metal and rock, and then he transitioned over to country. And then I know a guy by the name of Mikey Dean. He's also a country artist who toured the world doing rock and metal, and then went over to country.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome to see.
Go ahead.
I just think it's pretty awesome to see people transition genres like that. It takes a lot of talent and a lot of. You have to think every time you change a genre, you're walking away from certain fans.
Right.
Because there's people who are only going to be tied to, you know, maybe tied to me just for the rap aspect of things. When I stop doing rap, I'm going to walk away from those fans. So, I mean, it does take a level of dedication, but also just determination to stick to what you want to do and not be a people pleaser.
There's, like you said, it's a certain skill to get out of your comfort zone. There's many bands in the hardcore scene that started out really, really heavy, and the biggest example is Bring Me the Horizon. So they were known for being super, super heavy. And then as the album went on, more and more singing, more and more melodies. Like they incorporated more and more stuff. And now they're like a pop band. They went from
pretty much
extreme death metal to radio rock or radio pop.
Yeah.
And then after they started doing that, you've seen a whole bunch of bands trying to do the same thing. So the first and second album, heavy. Third one, more singing incorporated, and then like 4 and 5 is pop, or like popish and rock. A couple breakdowns here. That model does not work for everybody.
Nah, it really doesn't. I just, like I said, I feel like it's super difficult, and it does take a certain amount of skill, and honestly, luck is part of it too.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. So, being that we're talking about, or being that I just touched on radio rock, do you think radio is important anymore?
I think radio is definitely important. I think anywhere that you're able to reach people's ears is important.
Now, how
And I
hard
think
is it for a musician, let's say in Omaha, to be played on something like 106.9 or 94.1? Well, 94.1 is kind of like pop and rock and a little bit of rap here. But how hard is it to get onto a radio station realistically?
it probably is pretty difficult. I mean, I'm really finally at the point in my career where I feel like I have songs that are suitable for radio, and I haven't dropped most of them yet. So I haven't really pursued that avenue heavily yet. I do know like it's nice. There's a lot of local programs out there like Planet O, is one of the big ones. I send a lot of music to them, and that's good to showcase local artists through stuff like that. But as far as getting on bigger stations, I haven't really pursued that heavily, but I will in the near future.
Gotcha. And you said you're based here in Omaha now?
Yeah, well, I live in Lincoln, but yeah, I'm based out of Omaha.
Gotcha. What's Lincoln's rap station?
Um, I don't even know if we technically have a rap station. I mean, we have like 106.3, but it's like pop. There's a pirate radio station that plays once in a while when you're driving around and you can catch it. And they
Really?
play like cuss words and everything. Someone's like broadcasting out of their house. It's super awesome. And they play hardcore rap nonstop. But
That's dope.
it's always a good day when I catch that radio station.
Like, I'm going to drive all the way up to Valley or drive down to Valley just to hear this radio station.
Right.
That would be, I think a radio host would be one of the toughest jobs nowadays because you have to have a following, first of all, somebody to tune in. And then to keep people there through all the commercials, I think that would be the toughest part.
Definitely. I completely agree because I feel like anytime I hear commercials on the radio, I'm like, okay, either putting either turning it. You know?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple. Let's see. Recently, I started listening to radio, but not for music. I turned it to 590 AM, and that's where like ESPN radio. That's the only time I'm on radio because anytime you turn it to 94.1, 96.1, 98.5, 106.9, it's always Post Malone, Lizzo, and whatever, like the newest rap song, or not even rap song. It could be somebody like I like Sam Smith though. What's Louis Capaldi?
Right.
That song,
right.
when his song took off, no matter what channel you turned it to, it was always on, and that's what frustrates me as somebody who doesn't listen to radio. Let's say my Spotify goes out or my CD player isn't working. I want to listen to music, but not the same song 25 times in a day.
That's facts. I feel like I've strayed away from a lot of the popular radio stations. I listen to a lot of like oldies and variety, classic rock. Because I feel like one, I don't know why, the music just makes me feel better. For one, and two, I just like it's less repetitive. And if it does repeat, I'm like, these are classics that have been established for years, so I'm not mad about it.
Who was it? Cali, Indiana, to reference them again, they actually brought up like there's country, like there's like radio country. There's a certain formula that works. So whether it's like verse, pre-chorus, chorus, back to the verse, chorus, and then chorus to end it. Like there's a certain formula that works on radio that might not work other places. Like would I type in, granted I'm not a huge fan of Lizzo, would I type in Lizzo to hear that song 25 times in a day? Probably not.
Nope.
Because I just can't stand the repetitiveness, like you said. It drives me insane.
Oh, completely. I remember when like Ariana Grande, anytime she drops anything, it's just like played nonstop, and I can't stand her.
The crazy thing is, she's probably one of the most talented people out of the people we had mentioned.
She is though. I don't know. It's an acquired taste, and I don't have it.
Yeah, you just gotta have that big dick energy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know she's the one who came up with that big dick energy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She's hilarious.
Now, a couple more questions, and then we'll go on to something new here.
Sure.
Okay. Question for you: is being a rapper in Omaha or Lincoln, or I guess in this area in general harder or tougher, being that there's not a vast amount of rappers to begin with?
I actually feel like, honestly, I feel like it's the contrary. I like, especially like I've been doing shows for like the last 3, 4 years, and I feel like if there's anything, we have an abundance of rappers. There's a lot of rappers who are good, but their friends make them think they're a lot better than they are, and there's just, I don't know. It's such a mixed bag of talent, but there's a lane for everybody, and so I can't hate on anybody. Obviously, I love if people are chasing their dreams, so I'm like, I can't hate on anybody. But there's a lot of rappers out, and so I think that actually does make it difficult though, because everybody's got a friend that raps, or like knows somebody who's a rapper, and they send out links all the time, and then you're competing with all these other people. You get grouped into a category. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of talented artists in Nebraska, but there's also a lot of not so talented artists. Some of them are just pushing and starting off, and that's cool. But to get grouped in the same category, a lot of times people just don't even give you the time of day because they don't understand unless they experience it.
Fair point. Fair point. I was just about to ask. My follow-up question to that is, what separates your so-called good rappers from the bad ones? Whether it's producing, like we spoke about earlier, lyricism, actually meaning what you say or experiencing what you say. What are some attributes that separate the good ones from the bad ones?
Well, I think good artists have taken a lot of time to realize what it is to market yourself. I think that sets apart good artists from bad artists. Honestly, mediocre artist who markets himself very well is going to beat out a super talented artist who doesn't know how to market at all. So in my opinion, because it's a business, and if a lot of these rappers out here are like, the goal is to quit the day job and do this full time. And if you're going to do that, then you really got to have a hold in it and be fully dedicated to it. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. So I think that's something that really separates it, is just you really just have to market yourself. If you don't market yourself, you're selling yourself short. And I think there's a lot of talented artists who don't market themselves fantastic. And that's also why I kind of wanted to get into the marketing game, was because I wanted to help artists do something that I never really had anybody help me do. I just kind of had to trial and error everything I possibly could to get the formula down. So now I just really want to help pass that on and help people out.
So how do people reach you? Do they go to Facebook? Do you have Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I've got you can reach me at any of our like True Fortune ENT pages. I've got one on Instagram at True Fortune ENT. I've got True Fortune Entertainment on Facebook. You can reach me through my personal Facebook, Caleb Bruns. I really am pretty easy to get a hold of. If people have business inquiries, they can text or call at 402-646-8865. Otherwise, my email is always open as well for collabs, booking, etc. And that's Caleb at truefortuneent.com. So.
Perfect. And let's end it with this. Let's talk about your new album. You said it's called Mastodon. It's coming out in the fall. How many songs are going to be on it? Do you know?
So Mastodon is going to be, depending on if I get these features back in time or not, Mastodon's probably going to be 15 or 16 songs.
15 or 16. Wow.
Yeah, it's my third album, and it's definitely my piece de resistance so far.
So how long does it take to come up with like mix, master, all that good stuff for 15 or 16 songs? I mean, I can only imagine it takes a while.
Oh, it definitely does. It's a process we've been building over a period of I dropped my last album June 6th of last year. I've been working diligently since then on this album, as well as building my own brand, becoming part owner in my new company, and like doing a bunch of other stuff on the side, managing artists. So.
Now you said June 6th last year. Did you name the album B-Day?
I did not. Last year the album was Cult Leader.
Cult Leader.
Yeah. It was a really fun album. I really enjoyed making. Made at Lost Gravity Studios.
Now, do you have any singles out that are off the Mastodon album that people
Yeah,
can check
actually,
out?
I do. My latest song, Hurricane, is out. It's actually like a pop song. It's kind of got more of a upbeat pop feel to it, kind of like a Neon Trees kind of vibe almost. But that is out on Spotify, iTunes, all of that, and that's Drama Hurricane. And then my next single drops on 420. And that's called Moon Rocks, and that'll be for my rap fans because that'll be kind of more of a rap track. So
Cool. So I think what we'll do is we'll plug. Let's see. We'll plug one at the beginning of this at the beginning of the podcast and one at the end of the podcast if that's good with you.
yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So anything else you want to say before we end this first ever quarantine podcast?
I just want to say thank you guys so much for having me on as a part of this. I really enjoyed this. Is my first ever interview, so it's really fun to do. Kind of interesting to do it this way, but awesome that we can make it happen, dude. And just blessed to be a part of it. Also, I don't know if you guys are looking for more like people to interview or anything, but I definitely have my label head is getting ready to drop his album in May. And he's been building this album for like 3 years, and it's really turning out great. So,
Yeah, just send us all the information. We can get that set up. Like I've said in previous podcasts, we're always looking for people, whether they're out of state, in state. Now, even being out of state is accessible, so we'll work something out. But until the next time, that was Drama,
yes.
episode 26, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, hey, it's Drama and Sykes. TFE up in his bitch. Watch out for him though, he might really fuck your bitch. Hey, I got the sauce, I got the drip, shawty. Yeah, I'm in the house. Yeah, it's a big body. Hey, solid as rock. No can't shit stop me. You know the drama got sauce. Yeah, you know the drama go off. Everybody wanna fuck with the kid, I ain't stuck with the kid, and I'm up in this bitch, and I'm running this shit. Dick up in your bitch, and I'm dumping the clip. No fucks in the clip, get buck and get lit. We be loud at the shows like the subs and the kicks, getting dubs, getting rich, puff in the shit. TFE be the squad, untouchable, drip, untouchable. I got the sauce, I got the drip, shawty. Yeah, I'm in the house. Yeah, it's a big body.